To you there, the 17th day of October 2025. Welcome to Good Morning Anambra. This morning, my name is Ajuluchukwu Okabwe.
My name is Nonya Nwoko. It's good to have you on the show this morning. And when we talk about poverty, there are things that comes to my mind. With the saying in the scriptures that the poor you will always have with you, and we begin to wonder, is there any possibility of, eradicating poverty in our land?
Reducing it to the barest minimum is what I believe we can actually do, but totally eradicating it, because some people are hell-bent on living on the servitude of others. They rather want to be, sit down and wait for people to be giving them whatever they need, sustenance, and then they'll be shouting rankadede. But that's for some other people. But whereas others are looking for others that will point them in the right direction, or even give them a net, let them go into the waters and then fend for themselves. So when you talk about poverty, both internationally, locally, I think it's a thing of the mindset. But I believe by the time our guests get to make their own contributions to the subject that we have at hand to discuss this morning, we'll have a broader view of what we're talking about.
All right, today happens to be 2025 International Day for Poverty Eradication, and we need you to come closer and make your contributions here because we are live on Facebook. You can drop your comment, let us pick it from there. And the topic is restoring dignity and in poverty. We've been joined by guests in the studio this morning. Comrade Uzo Ekemeze is founder, country director, Maibo Empowerment Foundation Worldwide. You're welcome to the studio, and let's see how far you're fighting poverty with your organization. Welcome.
A very good morning, Nonye, Ajolo, and members of the crew. The viewers at home, it's a very wonderful Friday morning. Wherever you are in the office at home, just join us to see what we have on today's National Tabloid. All
right, and we also have the Program Officer, Social and Integral Development Center, SIDEC, Ugochi Ehahorike. It's good to have you, Ugochi. Welcome.
All right, thank you very much, Nonye, Angelo, and team member. Let's stay tuned. Anambra, let's talk about poverty.
All right, the theme for this year's World Day for Eradication of Poverty says ending social and institutional mistreatment by ensuring respect and effective support for families. Now, I want to begin by asking, what do we use to measure poverty? How do we know someone is poor, or that a country is poor, a community is poor, or a state is poor? Uzo?
Well, thank you very much. In this particular era or discussion, there are three things that is involved. When we talk about poverty, and abject poverty, these are three different things. So far that this global planet Earth exists, okay, there have to be poor people. But poverty and abject poverty is what we are into. Okay? Well, from that economy, if you go into it, poor, it means that those who are actually acromonize it, says that it is passed over opportunity repeatedly. You see? So maybe when you talk about somebody is poor, you may choose to be poor, okay? You may choose to be rich. You see? These are things that is our choice. And even if you say that you don't want to choose any of them, a matter of law, okay, choosing none is also a choice, because choosing not is also a choice, or choosing not. So now, in this sense, will we say that Nigeria is a poor country? The answer is emphatically no. Because when we talk about the poor, it means that there is no any other thing that is within you that you can use to make yourself rich. That is what we're talking about, poor. In Nigeria, we have an abundant natural agricultural resources that God has endowed this country have been issued. That to the extent that some of the foreign countries are saying, if they can come to Nigeria and they stay, okay, nationalize, then if Nigeria go to their country, they will turn this place into paradise. I'm one of the advocates of that. It is hard time. If I see anybody again praying for Nigeria to be good, I will become mad to the person because we are provoking God. I don't see why God has done his own part. There is level of, what do you call it, the rate of the extent of impossibility. Okay, everything is possible before God. In God dictionary, there is like impossibility. Okay, but there is extent of impossibility for God on human being. That is what He have already given you to do, and if you fail to do it, God will not do it for you. That is it. Okay, so now, if Nigeria has had all these things at their disposal, and they choose to remain and make the masses, make the poor, the citizens of this country to become poverty, they are going into poverty, not even poor. Okay, it means that what God has given to them, they don't want to use it. So what are we saying that God should come and bless Nigeria or help Nigeria out of this? Is it so celebrating or marking World Poverty Day? Okay, does not mean that we are going to eradicate poverty entirely, because two things are involved. People choose to be poor, and even people that are in power make people to be poor. For example, in Nigeria, what has happened for the years past is that the leaders, what you talk about the cause of poverty is that the cumulative leadership failures over the years.
I think before we talk about the cause, it's important. You said that Nigeria is not poor, but I'm trying to let us bring out, what you use to measure poverty. What do you see? And you say an individual is poor, a nation is poor, a state is poor.
I have said it, Nonye. I said that when there's no responsibility, what is around you that can make you to be rich, then you are poor. If you are within something that can make you to be rich or to be comfortable, okay, then you are poor. So me as a Nigerian, I'm not poor because I have something that is within me that make it to be rich. But those that will control it are using it for their own personal, gain. That's why we are poor. All
right, Ugochi, do you have anything to add to this before we move on?
Okay, so what do you see or what do you feel that can make people say, oh, someone is actually poor? It's denial of access, right? For instance, access to education, access to healthcare, and other social amenity. Once one cannot actually access all these things freely, you can actually say that this person is poor. For instance, looking at persons with disabilities, let's take them as an example. You look at our major markets in Anambra state and worldwide, and in Nigeria. You ask yourself, how accessible are those economically places that can empower such citizens? Are they really accessible for such people to trade, do their day-to-day businesses, to get empowered? If such places are not accessible for such people, that's the definition of poverty. Then you look at also women in some spaces. Are our spaces really safe for them to constructively engage? If spaces where decisions are taken are not really safe for them to express and demand their input and accountability, automatically they are poor because they lack access, they lack opportunities, they lack those safe spaces that they can actually express and demand that which belongs to them. That's poverty. Now they say poverty has a woman face, in as much as I beg to disagree. How? Because where decisions are taken and you're not there to make your contribution or quota, it's the definition of poverty. You are denied access to information, access to participate, even at the family setting. When some certain decisions are being taken and you are not there, that you are already excluded. That exclusion can cause poverty. That's measures. When people are intentionally excluded in some places, it's poverty. Then again, I also feel that poverty is a choice. You can choose to walk out of that situation that seems to be so unsafe for you. That space that you feel that is so unsafe, you can break it yourself. Because I've seen what is happening right now among our youths. Some of our youths don't really want to do the right work. They don't even want to stress themselves. Like you stressing yourself, they don't even want to identify with you because of the route that some of them have taken. And that's for me. I weep because I can't imagine what it will look like for them in the next 10, 20 years. I weep for this, some of those youths. So that's poverty setting in, and some people are not really seeing it. And it's also boiled down to parenting. So I think the poverty issues, like Ajulu said, it's not something we can advocate for eradication, but we can actually work towards curbing it. Right. I recall when they government came up with some policies and programs, poverty eradication, poverty alleviation, poverty, you know, if you ask yourself how far have they really achieved their expected objective? Have they really expected the outcome of all what we expected from them, the government? So poverty is something that we've not really delved into towards seeing how we can cope. But I feel what ABS is doing today is of essence because our people really need to talk to so that we can strategize on what we are doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ugochi. You really gave it a woman touch there. But now, let's go down to what we are discussing, you know, World Poverty Eradication Day. Yeah, democracy, as we all know, is meant to bring dividends to whosoever that is practicing it because it's government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And then this thing that we are celebrating today is world, is global. You understand? We have the United Nations, we have the UNESCO, we have the World Health Organization, all war. But now, Ekemeze, this is coming to you. With all these global bodies, you understand, with all the funding that they've been sending to areas where poverty seems to be high, Nigeria and some other third world countries in Asia and the rest of it all, it's still not hitting the nail on its head. As I speak to you, 700 million people out of 8.4 million population of this world of inhabitants of Earth go to bed not even as short of a meal a day. And we're talking about eradication of poverty. Does it mean that this democracy that we are practicing in this Nigeria and some part of the world is not actually yielding the true dividends based on the international support from different organizations in trying to eradicate this?
Well, as I can say, that is what you call an energy sapping. It's a waste of resources because when we interjected that before we go to the cause, okay, let us discuss all these things. If there's no cause, there won't be effect. In law, don't talk about the action, talk about the cause. I used to say, time without number, that God destroyed the first world. It's not even that destroying the world is the problem. It's why did God destroy the first world? Because of their disobedience. So if there's no disobedience, God will not destroy it. Then what makes people to be sending funds to Nigeria? And at the end of the day,
and other parts of the world, not only Nigeria.
All over the world, and at the end of the day, okay, that thing does not discriminate, okay, to the root, to the people that are on the ground to receive that thing for them to come out of poverty. Why? For over years, much fund has been engulfed into this, and yet there's no result. It's not result oriented. I said it is leadership failure. Because if you give somebody, listen to me, people say that a hungry man does not share food in the public. Also what I'm trying to say. So when you now bring something and give to somebody who even becomes selfish on himself, for him to take care of himself, for people that are around him, his associates and whatever it is, how can he get to the people that are there? We think that it's only Nigeria that is encountering leadership failure. It's not only Nigeria, but Nigeria's own is very imminent because they have choose to weaponize hunger through their political ideology. That's why the youth are engaging in politics, forgetting about the policy. The policy that I have not, my friend said here, that about poverty alleviation program or whatever it is, not a policy. What have you done for many years now? You see, what we are after is just politics. You see, they're thinking about for them to go into next election. So when you give them money, when UNICEF or UNICEF send this money to Nigeria or whatever that trust fund, it cannot go to the people that needed it directly. Rather, they have their own friends, associates that can even distribute it to them, and yet you continue to live within poverty. What are we saying? Is it whether the world like let them celebrate the World Eradication Poverty Day? You can never eradicate poverty. You can never eradicate poverty. It's a matter of choice. When the leaders have choose, when we have choose by ourselves that God has blessed this particular planet Earth, okay, and they give it a natural abundant resources for people to thrive on it, you start to misuse it. Don't call God. God is waiting for you for your action and inaction. So what I'm trying to say is that, as I have rightly said, why is he not working for over these years upon all the monies and billions of naira that dollars have been sending to all these places? Even if you now did come, Go to those that have been displaced, okay, that will have all these insurgencies, like in Sudan or whatever it is. All the people in the ID camp, if you bring food that are going to take to the ID camp, somebody will divert that truck of food and all this to his or her personal gain. And people like, yeah, lavish. You see, you send people out of their own home to live in camp. Does it mean for people to not leave their home? You're supposed to stay in their home. But the idea, even you that are staying in your home, from your house, you go to ID camp. Yes, the food that's supposed to be there, you take it to your own personal gain. How can he, achieve result when the leaders are, are doing something on their own selfish interest? So, what I'm talking about, in Nigeria as an example, we can reduce poverty to barest minimal, not to eradicate it. When we choose to do that, matter of choice.
All right, it's a matter of choice according to Ozo, but as we go on, we will understand better if there are things we need to do as a people. But now let's look at the multi-dimensional, poverty index that was revealed in 2022. And of course, I don't think any other report has come up to counter that after 3 years. It says 63% of persons living within Nigeria, and that is 133 million people, are multi-dimensionally poor. And one begins to ask, what does this mean? How do we interpret this figure? Does it mean all Nigerians, or virtually half of Nigerians are poor, Ugochi?
All right, so when we look at poverty, when we look at poverty with a poverty lens in Nigeria, you see that it's only a few that are really out of poverty. Why do I say that? If you look at also our leadership structure, our political ecosystem, you also observe that just a few people take decision. And that is why the poverty is so embedded in all angles and all ramifications. For instance, I will always narrow things down. Maybe let me just take a lift from just Anambra state election, the proceedings, who and who came out to vote, and the just 21 November 6th election. You see a situation where we have currently 2.8 million eligible voters, and as at that time only 92,000 people came out to vote. Why would poverty take preeminence? Why would poverty dominate? I'm just using Anambra state as a case study. Because where people don't come out, where people don't participate, where people are not involved in decision making, where corruption has taken over, like every transaction is embedded in corruption. So why won't people be poor? While every contract, there are elements of corruption or corrupt practices. Why will people be affected? You asked Uzo here, question, what are those, why, based on all those interventions from donor agencies, still the corruption is still there, the poverty is still there. So the question is very simple. Oftentimes people don't do issue-based intervention. They just do intervention based on their interest. When you look at most of our budgets are not really development-oriented. Building roads, you're not addressing poverty. You're not addressing developmental needs. What are those things that when you see it, you say that, oh, development is taking place? What are those things? No, see, when a society is developed, automatically it will address the statistics or poverty ratio. But where the society or the state or country is not developed or is not development oriented, it will definitely affect the masses. What we are facing today is not just poverty as we see it. It's a society that is not really interested in development. But we are really interested in, what people say about us. People singing praises of what we've been doing.
And Ugochi,
so it's a policy thing.
Ugochi, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, they talked about inflation dropping to 18.2%, and that even at that purchasing power is still very low. I don't know.
But that's the truth. That is the truth. If we talk about that particular inflation and inflation-related matters, it's really dropping. That's what we've seen according to statistics. But then, again, it still affects us. Look at poverty. In fact, before I stepped out this morning, someone called me. I know this is not really the platform to talk about it, but someone called me and was talking about a lot of hikes around taxation, inflation, around the way they do their businesses. And it's a woman. The person was not asking me, do people really want them out of poverty? Our leaders. So everything rises and falls on leadership. I think our leaders don't want us out of poverty, because if they really want us out of poverty, they will do the needful. And what are those needful? If you release funds, please, even if it's inadequate, but let it address the needs of the people. Do not release funds and still cut the fund. Do not also, when it comes to budgeting, because budget is a law, when you make provisions for some ministries, do not also hijack the activities of those ministries so that you're supporting them. These are what contributes to poverty. Ministries that should address poverty or poverty-related matters are agriculture, health, education, infrastructure. Then will come in. But when you are still doing it and those people are just there, the ministries are just there as ceremonial ministries, what do you expect? The poverty will continue. Even if inflation drops to zero, even if the cost of living is even dropping, the poverty system or poverty state is still there. So for me, everything rises and falls on poverty. The question was, does it mean that it's just a few that are out of poverty? And I still say yes. It's just a few people that are holding us at ransom. All of us. That's why, no matter how hard you try to speak out, the issue is there because somebody will say that it seems that the smart and brilliant ones just left this country, the Japa syndrome, and now left us in the hands of some people that have taken us ransom. So the moment you speak out and take ownership at community level, when intervention comes like this, you take ownership of it. A health program is going on. You take ownership, you ask questions, you participate, you key. I think these are the things. Like intervention coming around health, you know that this money for basic health provision fund is our own. As a woman leader, as a community person, WDCs, citizens, you come out and ask questions.
All right,
Then,
I think there is need for enlightenment at this point so that people will know when to come in or how to go about the whole thing. Now, Uzo, you said something about leadership being the major cause of poverty. Apart from leadership, what other areas or what other things do you think contribute to poverty?
Well, I said it down to that number, okay? That first of all, the problem we have, okay, globally, especially in Nigeria, is cumulative leadership failure over the years, okay? I said that is what's in poverty. But when we talk about this poor, somebody to be poor, okay, we're looking at economic poor, okay? Somebody will be economically poor, okay? What of mentally poor? The leaders are mentally poor. Because we want to talk about poor person, all of us are in poverty. Because if these leaders are not poor mentally, okay, they would have known that these things that we have in this country is for all of us all. Okay, we born equal to end up equal. That we are there to serve and not to be served. Okay, look at ICPC recovered 436 billion naira. And the president is not attempting to be writing to the National Assembly for more borrowing. You borrow for consumption and not for production. You borrow for you to service the current expenditure and not for you to invest into revenue yielding ventures that are going to bring employment and create an atmosphere that the company will be thriving and people will get employed. It's rather you get this money for you to share it. Are you not taking them into account? Is he sharing money? People that is okay, a stipend that they're going to give people that are at home, women, market women, people that are SME, giving them 1 naira, 50,000 naira. What is this going to do? Why in 1980, okay, 1,000 naira, okay, is buying a saloon car, but in now, okay, 1,000 naira cannot buy a not with bread. A penta of garri cannot buy it. And you're telling me that you come to market and give somebody 50,000 naira, okay, as a support. We can support. Okay, even student that is in this student fund, okay, student loan, okay, where are they assessing it? You give somebody 50,000 naira, 100,000 naira for student loan, while the school fees and other things will be about 300 something thousand. He's not somebody to mock somebody, giving him something and also taking it back from the person. You see, what I'm trying to say, the leaders are mentally poor. And the masses that are also poor. Because when masses now vote for them to change leaders, like in the National Assembly are passing laws for us to have election, all the election issue to be resolved within 185 days against 90 days that it was before. Okay? And they should make sure that there will be electronic voting. And all the electoral officers should vote 14 days before the election. Okay? All of us are youth, are going to the street, okay, chanting to the politicians, playing politics. Forget about that police. That police will really work. If you work and you bring a leaders who think about the masses, then the democratic dividend will be what? Achieved. Now, another factor is that me, who choose to be poor, the youth, the masses, I choose to go to the easy ways of making money, and not for them to even strive to either learn a skill or just to employ themselves. Employment and empowerment, these are two things that are in this country. Okay? If you're not employed, why can't you be empowered? You see, how many times the federal government have introduced skills acquisition in primary and secondary school? How far have they gone to make sure that somebody who is in primary 1 to SS3, okay, maybe he or she has learned one skill or the other. At the end of the graduation, you give them a startup pack. So even if they carry their file and go to labor market to look for job, they go back and start to sustain themselves. Bring them out of poverty. 139 million Nigerians that is at poverty. That ratio is not even accurate because it's more than that. Because if you go to all these villages, okay, let me tell you, I'm coming down from my office. I boarded Keke, okay, when I stopped at Regional Junction. And then the other boy gave the Keke 200 naira. It's supposed to be 150 for the fare. The Keke said that it doesn't have 15 naira. The boy leave that. That's okay, take it. Then I now give my own 200 naira. He was asking me, did I have 15 naira? So he can give me, 100 naira. I said, I don't have. What are you going to give? Give me 100 naira. Since this boy has given you 15 naira, I take it. He said, no, you now put a hand in his pocket and put 15 naira and give me. He's not mentally poor. Then tomorrow, if you give him to lead this particular, even local government, even his own community, okay, if you bring that intervention back there, he will now fix it. And for his own personal gain. So the problem is enormous. It's encompassing. Okay, that you have to change our mindset. Because if a leader, okay, is morally corrupt, honestly, he or she will be financially corrupt.
Well,
The idea.
Very,
okay?
very,
Finally,
yeah.
Okay, in this note, when I ask you see, what we are seeing now is the errors of governors defecting from one political party to another. Okay, if you ask them, they say they want to connect to center. Which center? Center of criminality, center of corruption, center of what do you call it? People pulling them down to poverty. It's not what I'm talking about. It's still in now. And the people are clapping for them. People are keeping quiet. I think 2027. There's a will decide what they are going to do as a matter of choice.
No problem.
Not even only the leaders.
Thank you so much for that submission. Well, we'll continue the discussion here in the studio after hearing from our street parliamentarians. Let them make their own contributions and get to know if this poverty is only within us here in the studio or if they too out there are feeling it. Don't go anywhere. The show continues after this.
The government should help to reduce poverty in Nigeria in so many ways. Number one is by provision of employment to younger people. Another one is encouraging the young people to embark in agriculture. When younger people embark in agriculture, they earn money. Agriculture is all about money. Sometimes they give the farmers aids like fertilizers, seedlings, without charging money. So those farmers, I believe, when they cultivate, they will earn money. And by so doing, poverty rate in Nigeria will be reduced to a minimal level.
The only way you can reduce poverty, the way you are, in my own understanding, to BRS members by having good governance. You see that we have had some good governors in Anambra State, people are enjoying. In Abia State, people are commending what the governor is doing. In Enugu, people commend now. In Anambra, and people are being engaged. This one youth, two scale. That is what we help to reduce. I believe they on it. If government continue with something like that and continue to add to it, it will happen.
By creating employment to the teeming youth, like engaging in agriculture, and industrialization, like building factories, giving loan to various the businessman, and giving an enable environment to various investors, so that if they can come and invest, then our youth will have employment.
Providing works, like now, everything is like it stands still. No work, nothing like taking new workers in this state now. Many people are retiring. Let them pay something, do open this thing for workers, or put that they're looking for workers, new workers for government, that's government's work. Thereby, they will help new ones.
There are many ways to reduce poverty to the barest minimum. But one of them is through empowerment, and secondly through industrialization, employment. And when we talk of poverty to the barest minimum, let's say in the rural communities, the rural areas where we have high poverty rates, most of these people have bad roads, poor road networks. They are farmers, they produce goods, but they don't have good road networks to transport it to the market and cash out. So you start by development. Through development, it makes it easier for them than empowerment and so many other forms of reducing poverty.
Actually, they are in this poverty bracket. I was thinking maybe the 131 million Nigerians excluded them. But now, from what the last speaker was talking about, government really investing in development, creating more job opportunities. And we've had Ugochi here in the studio say it's not just about building road, but then you need to impact, directly into the citizenry, and we have a whole lot of that. And then we've had where people have etched words in marble and say that the fact that you drive your Lamborghini or your exotic cars and you live in your mansion, glass mansion, you're still poverty connected, because there are certain things that the government ought to have provided that they have not provided. You fall into that bracket, you understand, of 135 million Nigerians within the poverty index. You understand what we talk about, the multi-dimensional poverty index. And now we've talked about so many things, mitigating against, the eradication of poverty. We want to now begin to talk about solutions, even though we are in the solution government. But then let me begin with the lady first, Ugochi.
Okay, all right. So when you talk about solution, I think one of those ways to mitigate poverty is by thinking about, let me just take, for instance, the civil servant welfare. The civil servants, the workers, even those working in private sectors, and all this, what's their welfare package like? Last time we just talked about minimum wage. So is it really addressing the issue? When you enter those markets where someone earning more than 2 million is also trading and buying, where also somebody also earning less than 80,000 is also trading, is it really addressing the minimum wage package? Is it really addressing the issue? The answer is no. So if people should actually work on paid and unpaid care, what about the unpaid care? A lot of people do a lot of things and they don't get any pay. And they still need to go to those markets where the wealthy ones are really trading or buying and selling their business, do their day-to-day businesses. So you now see welfare package is one of the things that I really need to look into if you really want to address these issues that revolves around poverty. Then again is being intentional in your intervention. Your intervention, are they really issue-based? our budget in this country is really addressing the needs of people, developmental needs. What do you think? What do we want to see in our budgets?
Ugochi, let me pause you at that budget you're talking about. We know what United Nations, UNESCO wants for budget, education and the likes, agriculture and the rest of it all. But when you don't tackle corruption, which is the bane of the reason why poverty is still much like the clothes that we wear every day, you understand? How then do you take care of that? So you need to tackle the corruption because that's what it's eating into. If you make the budget 26%, like in the case of agriculture, which is the UNESCO standard, and I'm sure poverty will still, you understand, be in this part of the world. What's your take on that?
All right,
please?
so let's just take it, let's step it down a bit down from UNESCO because that's a bit high for us here in Nigeria.
Okay, you don't see 26% achievable.
So let's just take all these Maputo and Abuja declaration. For agriculture, we're looking at benchmark of 15%. For education is 10%. For health is 15%. Then again, looking at some states and our federal budget, we are not really meeting, we are not even anything close to that. And if you want to eradicate poverty, and you want to produce, eradicate poverty, you must gear towards addressing issues, developmental issues that reverse or are within the neighborhood of agriculture. Because no matter how poor you are, you can at least farm that small space. Because my people will say, what we do bikaba here. No matter how small it is, it's more than anything you can think about. Okay. So when you empower that farmer, that women farmer, PWD farmer, automatically you are lifting that person out of poverty. Then again, health. Looking at, though we have our basic healthcare provision fund, that is 1% of a consolidated revenue that should go to primary healthcare centers at ward levels to enable them ensure they have access, availability of drugs, accessible primary health care and functional health care, that even person with disability will use the RAM and access it. The blind can use the rails to walk, to find his or her walkway across the primary health care centers. You ask yourself, when you enter those facilities, and even looking at our budgets with that developmental lens, is it really addressing those issues? Yes. That's the question we need to ask. On education, yes, we have free education. Yes, and let me take, for instance, Anambra State Governor. He deployed teachers. He also made provisions to most public schools. But then again, you really ask yourself, are those things really enough to address our educational needs, the children we have? Even when they graduate from schools, do they really have job? When you look at poverty, you look at it from the employment and unemployment ratio, then you'll be able to say, oh, we are really addressing this poverty at its concern. So it's a developmental issue. I don't see our budget as we speak addressing developmental needs. Yes, some states are doing roads. Some states are not even doing road. Neither are they doing health or education or anything. In fact, some governors, we call them Abuja-based governors. It will shock you that some states in this country, because it's a global issue, in this country, you see some governors, they prepare their budget in Abuja. They are from the east here. Their budget is being prepared. Their speaker will not come to Abuja. They will do their defense. I will ask myself, who does this? And citizens are not really talking. So these are the areas we should look at our budget with development lens. What do we see? And we say that, oh, this budget is here because budget is a law. What do we see? And we say, oh, it's here to address poverty. The budget must represent the interest of people with health lens.
All right,
Ugochi,
I think you've addressed in the area on the side of government. Now let's come back home a bit, because I know when we were much younger, there's this thing in community level, you know, how people carry each other along, you know, to eradicate poverty. Though life is somehow these days. Now, also, I don't know, you should come in at this point to say what families, communities can actually do, local governments can do in eradicating poverty. What do you think, or how do we go about it from the family, the community, on the local government level?
Okay, Thank you very much. Before that, you see, if you take me to Igbo Forest 10 times, I'll come back 10 times. That's what I'm telling you. Because the most important thing is that particular, what do you call it, this issue of governance. Okay? How to reduce the cost of governance to the barest minimum. I'm coming to the family issues at the community levels. You see, how can you have 15 billion to renovate vice presidential, what do you call it, apartment? A president of this country is buying a yacht. One for the president is her own kitchen with 5 billion. What are you buying? What kind of kitchen utensil that you want to use 5 billion to buy? Some governors are having fleet of cars. The escort will be about 70 to 80 cars, fueling them every day. These are money that are meant for myself and you. Okay? When you reduce cost of government, how many people that are in Senate? Senators are receiving 15 million every month. And somebody, one of the person that's a senator from East, has said that it's not even enough to serve his constituency, what do you call it, office. What he does in a day. Okay? When you make this thing to be a part-time job, let them come back there. On Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, let them go and meet and come back. Then these things will come down. Okay? And yet, you are borrowing on daily basis. You see, it's until we live from this particular extravagant and exorbitant, okay, governance to come down to the normal standard way of governance. You see, then poverty will not even reduce to minimal levels. You see, rather, we're going to increase it to suffer. 2, we are, as I said earlier, going to, the government shall also invest, because my friend are talking about budget. Even if you like, budget, what do you call it, 50 trillion to Nigeria. Without execution, implementation, and monitoring of that particular budget.
For accountability. For
accountability, that thing is next to nothing. It is something that is, we call, is a zumoron. Okay, beautiful piece of rubbish. And that's what happened in Nigeria here. When they budgeted this thing, they put it in the, okay, what a budget padding? Add. They will pad, they will add. At the end of the day, they say, Senate, okay, this is for your own share. They will not sign. Because what you have in National Assembly is a political area boy senators who their job is to serve dinner at the table of the executive. Whatever they bring in, they'll sign. They come into the community. You know, all of us grow in the village. Okay, when we are in the village, okay, we do test by moonlight. Okay, we what they call communal work. Okay, communal living. Even if in Bible, in Book of Acts, it said that these people come together, bring whatever they have, okay, and share it. No one of them lacked anything.
Had need.
No one of them lacked anything. Okay, in communal living, you see, people can go, actually have a farmland today. Okay, all of us are age mates. Okay, or peer group. You see, let us go today to help him to farm his own farmland. Tomorrow is when he's trying to join us to do this thing. You see, community progress. Okay, even if building thatch house as a youth, I wanted to build a house, wanted to get married. You all the youth to come together, help him to build that thatch house and everything. Okay, help him to do necessary needs for him to get married and all this. These are what they call communal life. But now, okay, youth of these days are not ready to live that kind of life. For them living to less scale. Rather, it is easy ways of making money. Because these social medias, okay, an easy way of making money by online and all these things have already made people not to learn skills. Learn skills. That's why in our foundation, for 7 years, okay, we have empowered not less than 380 youths in different skills. If you're a girl, we use it from street. I know how many girls we bring from a street now that are sewing tellers in Lagos, in Alaba. They're making money. They're prostitutes in this thing, what do you call it, American street here. Okay, the youths that are into drug addicts and all these things, we bring them in. Let's scale. Because if you're not employed, you're going to be empowered. Okay, when we empower you, at least we can empower others. It is a recycling empowerment, not political empowerment. It's economic empowerment. That is anyone but all political. If you gather them together in also award, say, okay, I'm giving you the sewing machine. When you're sewing machine doesn't learn anything, but I'm sewing. Can go to Ose or Leaf Market and sell it and put money in the pocket. Even this is talking about when you do scale. I thank governor for that particular initiative. He tried, but group like some people now, they're giving them that money. They will go and use it for them to know how to make easy money. At the end of the day, I think we go into oblivion. We say, you have to now change their mindset from mentally poor, okay, to go into rich, because rich means, okay, rich in hand cheerfully. Why Paul or me pass over opportunity repeatedly? The youth are passing over opportunity repeatedly because they don't want to go onto this. So in community, let us come back, go into agricultural produce, because once we start working, once we start farming, say, oh, farming is just a dirty job. I don't want to go to. What do you mean by it is a dirty job? Okay. If you don't want to, don't want to soil your hand, then you cannot also soil your mouth with the.
Do they really understand that?
So the problem we have is that our leaders, as my friend has said here, corruption, okay, is endemic, is pandemic, and epidemic. Even Bible tells us that when they come in this general election, my dear fellow youth and the young men, okay, if they tell you that they are going to do this, they are going to build this in castle on earth, please don't believe them. The Bible warns us that they will promise you liberty, but they themselves are servants of corruption.
All right, we can actually go on and on, but this is how we are going to wrap up. Knowing that our guests here have talked a lot about poverty, there is no possibility of eradicating poverty completely, but we can reduce it to the barest minimum, at least give people sense of belonging in wherever they find themselves. We'd like to thank you so much, Ugochi Havurike, for your time this morning. Thank you for always answering the call of ABS.
Thank you very much.
We also thank you also for always answering us when we call you. Thank you for coming. All right, we thank you also for watching the program. Let's do one or two things to see whether we can reduce poverty. My name is Nonya Nwokoye. Don't go anywhere because we're coming back with more on Good Morning Anambra Show. Yeah, stay tuned. Catch the Bus is next. I'm Ajuluchuku Okawe, wishing you a pleasant weekend. Don't go anywhere.